We got one more guest here for this Tuesday edition of Bang the Book Radio. That is Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how's it going today, man?
Hey, Adam. How you doing, buddy?
Doing very well, bud. Appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much for joining me. We've been talking a lot of college basketball on the show here, so let's do something a little bit different. Let's chat some NHL. You put up a video, I put it up, you recorded it, for our Bang the Book YouTube page about the NHL futures market here with less than 2 weeks to go in the regular season. So, with that in mind, who are you highlighting? Who are you looking at here at this point in time?
Well, there's just races all over the place. I mean, you've got the fight to get in at the bottom of each conference. I mean, you've got the Columbus, it would appear Columbus and Montreal fighting for that last spot, but it's not just that. Boston's got a 5-point lead over Toronto, but it's the Metropolitan where, the division's up for grabs with the Caps, the Islanders, and the Penguins, literally the three teams within a point of one another. And you think one of those teams wouldn't rather play Canadians than have to play Washington would rather play the Canadians than play the Islanders or the Pens. So there's a lot to play for there. Winnipeg and Nashville are fighting for their division. And I think Chicago, that's the funny thing. I don't think Chicago's out of it. In the West, they've got a date with Arizona. Minnesota is, great effort last night. Donato hit the post at the tail end of the game. But yikes. I mean, the bottom spot in the West is crazy too. I think the motivation aspect for some of these teams here in the last week and a half, there's a lot on the line.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about here today. I mean, how do you approach these last 2 weeks of the regular season? I mean, you've got so many teams playing with pressure. You've got a handful of teams that aren't really playing with any pressure. They're just sort of wondering where they fall in terms of the draft lottery odds. But unlike the NBA,
Adam,
the NFL.
Adam, buddy, look at Detroit. Detroit just walked into Vegas and San Jose and won. No pressure. They're playing loose and easy.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I mean, this isn't a please like my sport thing or anything like that. This isn't to talk up hockey players, but we don't see that level of tanking in the NHL. So even these games that look like a gimme 2 points, that team that's favored still better show up.
Well, the crazy thing that not a lot of people talk about, they're playing for jobs. And when two teams are out of it, those games tend to be higher scoring and a lot more pond hockey in nature, maybe less physicality. Not always, but more often than not. But the other night, the kid from Winnipeg, the Connor kid, he's a terrific player. Well, he gets a hat trick, but he's had a great season. But on that one night, with the points he racked up in that game like a slot machine, he literally hit every bonus that was in his contract. And at the end of the night, had racked up $475,000 in bonuses. I don't know for a fact what his contract is, but Cody Eakin here, he's always knocked on the door. He's never got it. He got his 20th goal the other night. I'd lay dollars to donuts. He's got a $100,000 bonus for a 20-goal season, if not more. These guys, they all have something to play for. Don't ever sell short the mercenary aspect of it. And if it was never on more full display than anywhere than right here last year, where 14 guys were playing for a contract, and it ended up going all the way to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, the personal accolades and the money side of it, definitely something that you want to try to keep in mind. A lot of guys on those entry-level contracts do have those escalators for getting X number of goals, X number of assists, X number of points, so on and so forth. So those are definitely things that guys, I mean, if there's $475,000 on the line, you know how far away you are from it.
Hey, listen, I'm so old. I mean, I go back to the day where teams, and it was a stone in the players. There was nothing. The teams treated the players way differently. I mean, the Wayback Machine, if some guy was close to a bonus, believe me, management would tell the coach, lessen the guy's ice time or wouldn't put him on the power play. They were trying to keep the guy from getting the bonus.
Well, hopefully we don't see any of that here for these young kids in the NHL this season. But, I do want to touch on a couple of teams specifically here that kind of caught my eye. San Jose, They've fallen well off the pace here in the Pacific Division. They're 6 points behind Calgary now. They've lost 6 in a row. What's going on with the Sharks right now?
They are a train wreck in their own end of the rink. Carlson better, come back, and he better be healthy because they're an abomination in their own end. And, they got tons of talent. We know that. But, they're going to have to win games 5-4. They are just brutal in their own end. I'll say this. I think it'd be a good one, like a must-see TV kind of thing. Vegas just recently played them. They're going to collide in the playoffs. And all of a sudden, Vegas lost last night, but so did San Jose. So, Vegas is sitting here 5 points behind San Jose, and they're both sitting here with 6 games to go. But Vegas plays them again on Saturday. So home ice in the first round is kind of still up in the air a little bit. And the last game had a real bite to it. In San Jose picked up Haley from Florida. He tried – I give him credit because he's trying to get a tiger by the tail. Well, he was undisciplined, and Ryan Reeves stayed disciplined. But this game on Saturday night, they know they're going to play each other. Messages will be sent this Saturday night when Vegas plays San Jose. That's one to watch for old-time hockey fans. That one's going to have messages all over the place in it.
I'm rooting for the Arizona Coyotes. They've dropped 5 in a row. Maybe they've hit a little bit of a wall here. Hopefully they can turn things around. But on the flip side, the Metropolitan Division, the Capitals and the Penguins, both kind of getting it going a little bit here now. Veteran teams, they've been through the ringer before. They know what it takes. They know how to pace themselves. While Washington has leapfrogged the Islanders, Pittsburgh maybe knocking on the door of doing the same thing. This is not a surprise, is it? When these teams just sort of, it's business time now.
Well, no, absolutely, and it's also futures time. Vegas current form, they've taken an inordinate amount of money here, but the way they're playing, they're a defined threat in the West. Nashville, Winnipeg probably going to bang head. I'm telling you, the Capitals at 10-1, and we know the Lightning. They proved it last night too. Rallied to beat Boston. They want to win the last 6 games. They want to tie the all-time record. So. It's funny, the team's had a great season, and you can say it's their cup to lose, but I think Washington's a real threat. I mean, they can go out in the first round, but all the pressure in the world is off Ovechkin, right? I mean, this guy skated around for more than a decade with anvils on his shoulders. They won the cup last year. I think Washington comes in here, playing with house money at 10-1. I think they're certainly a team you could look at, and they've been kind of treading water to a degree, which it doesn't bother me. But I think in a playoff series, if Nashville gets goaltending, I think Nashville's a real threat at 14-1.
I think it's just, what's so hard here is that unlike a league like the NBA, for example, the top seeds are going to win their first round. I mean, you get the occasional upset, the 2-over or the 7-over-2, something like that. You rarely get an 8-over-1. The problem here in the NHL is that a lot of these teams have brutal first-round matchups and then a brutal second-round matchup. It really is a gauntlet, so it's hard to pick futures here this year, maybe as much as any. People ask me all year long, who do you like for the Cup? Don't talk to me until after the trade deadline, and now's the time. Like I said, in the West, I'd do Nashville. In the East, I would do the Caps. And but beyond that, I've always said this, Adam, and it's true. Although many years I'd be around the Sabres, they'd be great. They'd have great teams, and they'd lose in the first round. But then when you win the first round, you get a sense of belief, and that's when you can go on a run. I always say the first round, really good teams get left on the cutting floor, in the first round. I think it's the toughest series to win because – for the most part, everybody's as healthy as they're going to be, and everybody's jacked and motivated. So, and we've seen, the 8 beat a 1. We've seen the 8 go on to win the Cup. It's the greatest playoff tournament in all of sports, the Stanley Cup. There's just nothing better. And the goalie's the great equalizer. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. A hot goaltender can take you real far, but we've definitely seen that before many times over.
I don't like take a long hard look at Dallas too, the way Bishop's playing.
Yeah, Bishop's what they needed too. I mean, that was a team that always had talent. especially frontline talent with guys like Tyler Seguin, they needed the goaltending. And maybe now with Ben Bishop, they do finally have that. So they could be an interesting team. First-year head coach in the playoffs, so we'll see how that dynamic plays out there for the Stars. But, Brian, let's transition over to a much different sport here, golf. And I know you love this event. We've talked up this event quite a bit, the WGC-Dell Match play. So the floor is yours, sir. What is so great about this event?
Well, what's great about it, I think it's the best betting opportunity of the year. And I'll say that again. The best betting opportunity of the year where the player has a defined edge. And it's even better because it used to be single elimination, where a guy loses first-round match, bye, see ya, he's gone. Now it's round robin, so they're all playing 3 matches. So there's many more matches out there that you get to watch. But you watch on Wednesday when they tee off, and some guy could win his match 3-2. But if you were watching him and then he plays the next day and they make him a favorite, but if you watch the match that the guy won 3-2, he could have been spraying the driver all over creation, and he should have hit 3 drives that were going to go out of bounds, and he just shot himself right out of a stroke play event. But the ball hits a tree and bounces back in the fairway. And, you know, and the other guy, he wins, but he had no business winning in the fashion that he won, and his ball striking is not that good. But they'll turn around and just, because they can't watch all of this, and the next match, that guy's the favorite. When you're saying Tina Green, the guy he's playing who's the big underdog, he wasn't knocking putts down yesterday, but he was within 15 feet of the cup all day long. And you're sitting there getting this guy plus $1.70 in a match where he's going to kill the guy.
Well, I wrote up my preview for this event here earlier this morning, and you know the top 64 players in the official World Golf Rankings supposed to get in. 5 of them are out, so we get down to number 69, who is Luke List. But again, this is a who's who type of field for this WGC event. Big prize purse. I think it's $10.25 million. First place, 1.75, something like that. That's a lot of money, basically. That's what I'm saying here. And, you know, this is one of those events where it's a different type of format. And people that have played the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, you would think it would give them an advantage having played a lot of match play, right?
Yeah, there are guys like that, like Poulter. But Poulter last year was low-hanging fruit because he was running out of time to get into the Masters. And he played great, made a deep run, and fell short. People were playing Poulter because he was Mr. Ryder Cup, but it was because he was motivated to get into the Masters. And then what did he do? He went and won at Houston at 80-1. And so there's that as well. But I would say general betting strategies. There was one year, and I should remember. I remember. It's amazing how you remember the bad beats more than I had Victor Dubuisson at 100-1, and he lost to Jason Day on like the 6th extra hole in the final. But the one year, I actually had 250-1 guys playing each other in the finals. So the betting strategy is grab a guy from each region. It's like March Madness. You got the bracket, and your goal is to get a guy to the final, and then you can hedge off it. Or in a perfect world, that scenario exists where you've got 2 guys that have crossed over. If you've got 2 guys on either side of a bracket and hope they both get there. And again, you know, the general rule of thumb would be you want to try to get an average return on your investment in the 15-1 range at the end of the day.
It's an interesting point. I mean, you know, we talk a lot about obviously taking futures and guys to win tournaments because you know, a lot of stroke play tournaments, that's the thing to talk about. But that's a really interesting thing that, you know, we've got this bracket format here in this match play that really changes and gives you more flexibility because, like you said, it is akin to the March Madness format. So I think that's a really interesting angle to look at. You know, a lot of people think of this in terms of betting matchups, and there certainly are a lot of opportunities for that. But throwing some futures plays around the board may give you some hedging opportunities for the round of 16 and on down. That's an excellent point, Brian.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, if you've got 4 guys across the bracket, 1 out of every region, and you get 1 to the final, you know, unless it's like number 64 against Rory McIlroy, you know, you can just hedge it off and print the money and sit back and relax. And you may even get a plus price on the hedge. depending on who the guy is on the other side.
Now, I want to ask you about a couple of things here in particular. Dustin Johnson. A lot of people would say he's the best golfer on the planet. Maybe people say Rory. Maybe people say somebody else. Only 14-12 here. WGC match play career. Justin Rose 10-11-1, but of course, he's had success on the Ryder Cup and then also in the Olympics. So he's a guy that's played on the big stage. He's used to these types of things. Rory 24-11-2 in his WGC match play appearances. Matt Kuchar 24-9-3. So, how much of that matters to you here? The records that guys have had in match play type formats.
Well, it matters, and current form matters, and there's subliminal things. I'm going from memory here, but if I'm not mistaken, Sergio Garcia lives in Austin, married a girl from Austin. So there's familiarity and a comfort level, and guys from Texas are there. But I believe Garcia is sleeping in his own bed, and he's a match play guy that you could take a look at. There are a lot of things that go into it. Match play is a different thing. Personalities matter. You look at the pods that these guys come out of, and who's the guy that's steely-eyed? Who's the personalities? I mean, as much as it's about golf, sometimes it's staring down your opponent, looking him in the eye, and having the guy wilt. And Tiger's back in this thing. He's won this thing 3 times. I would think a big opportunity, maybe even a bigger opportunity, Tiger now. In the past, it was, hey, the long shot can beat Tiger because Tiger was winning every stroke play event. Well, Tiger's in contention all the time, but he still has that hole or two that maybe prevents him from winning. But you have a bad hole here, turn the page and go to the next hole. And I think, from a motivation aspect, obviously Tiger's highly motivated to do well here.
Well, and a guy we've talked about, I mean, without fail, in every stroke play tournament, Tommy Fleetwood shoots a 75 or a 76 at some point. So maybe that isn't as much of a problem for him here in the match play. If he's able to win, 2 of his 3 round robin matches, move on, maybe he can avoid that bad round as this tournament keeps going. But you mentioned Tiger, and my problem with Tiger is you play a lot of golf in this thing. You play 1 match a day, Wednesday through Friday. This tournament does start on Wednesday, by the way. And then if you get to the weekend, 2 matches on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, that's a lot of golf. So you also want to be looking at guys that, appear to be healthy or maybe haven't had the biggest workloads.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, that Saturday thing, that match can be some guy could just completely run out of steam, and the championship match is a blowout. There's 1,000 ways to get after that. I would say, I'm just here, but one example. Justin Rose, Gary Woodland, who's obviously a different player than he was, Eddie Pepperell, and Emiliano Grillo coming out of the one group with round-robin play. I'm telling you, there's not a soul on the planet. Well, that's not true. He showed up on maybe before the TPC. Eddie Pepperell. Eddie Pepperell is a birdie machine. That's the thing about this, is who are guys that are aggressive? Who are guys that flag hunt? So you take aggressive lines because birdies win holes. A guy like Eddie Pepperell, I like him. He's a 34th seed in the tournament. I like Eddie Pepperell to come out of that, and he's going to be a plus price probably in every round. 2 of the 3 matches, Eddie Pepperell is going to be a plus price. I'd be looking at a guy like Eddie Pepperell. Alpi Bonrod. He won a match play event over in Europe a couple of years ago. There's a guy flying under the radar. Nobody knows that he's good at match play. He's a birdie machine too, but he always has the 1 or 2 snowman on his card. But he's a completely different player in a match play format. There are price galore opportunities all over the place. Webb Simpson, 50-1. I think Webb Simpson has a huge shot to win this tournament. I think Simpson's sitting on a huge year, and he's a guy that can go low. He just has a bad round every tournament. Well, a bad round every tournament means he's had 2 bad holes in that bad round. Blot that over 5 days. If he's got 5 or 6 bad holes, but ball striking and his putting's better. So Webb Simpson has 5 bad holes. Who cares?
Yeah, I'll throw one name out here for you, and then I want to get your thoughts on the Sweet 16 real quickly. Alex Noren is 80-1. He's 10-2 in his 12 matches at Austin Country Club. This is the 4th year for the WGC-Dell Technologies match play at Austin Country Club. 10-2 record for Alex Noren. He was third last year, and he's 80-1 here this year because he's not in great recent form. But, again, maybe he seems to just like this match play format a little bit. Anybody else besides the guys that you mentioned here that you may be taking a look at, whether it's overall to win this thing or, think lines up well in matchups?
I looked at Noren. He's in a group with Koepka, Lee, and Lewis. I think Noren's the guy to come out of there. I mean, I think he nailed a good one. And then where did he draw? He drew very well. If he advances, he's going to play either Finau, Poulter, Kisner, or Mitchell. Those are all guys that are playing pretty good golf. Kisner's a pretty good match play guy. He's kind of sneaky good. On the way in, I think Pepperell's a bomb play. I think Webb Simpson is a bomb play. I think Jason Day has got a good track record here. He's 20-1. Not going to sneeze at. The one guy I would look at is Matt Wallace. I'm a big fan of Matt Wallace. He won 3 times on the European Tour last year. He's playing now here on the PGA Tour and the WGC events. And it's a different brand of golf over here, flag hunting as opposed to sometimes bump and run over in Europe. And I think this format suits a guy like Matt Wallace. He hits it a mile up the tee. He's laser sharp with his approach irons, and even the lack of familiarity with the courses, again, take the stroke thing out of it where he has a bad hole or two. Don't sleep on a guy like Matt Wallace, and I believe he's 100-1.
I guess I'll throw out one more name here. A young guy that shouldn't be bothered by the format and how many holes you have to play in this. Xander Schauffele at 33-1. I mean, this guy just plays well in elite level events. This is one of them. Maybe Schauffele has that big WGC win here, 3-1. Brian, one more thing I want to ask you about here on this segment for today. Sweet 16. What matchups are you looking forward to? Which ones do you think present the best betting opportunities? Just kind of bounce around the board here and tell us what you're thinking.
I think things kind of get squeezed down. The numbers get tighter. And, I love the first 2 days. And then it gets a little squirrely. Of all things, Adam, I would say, LSU and Michigan State. It's been a couple of games, right? We've seen this. LSU comes out of the gate gangbusters, and then they're hanging on for dear life. They remind me, remember when Jameis Winston was at Florida State, and they were a train wreck at the beginning of games, and then they'd come roaring back. I mean, you literally spent a whole football season, fading Florida State in the first half and playing them in the second half. I think LSU is that team this year. I had Vermont in the first half of their game. I think halftime wagering in these things, I look for LSU to get off to a good start in the game against Michigan State, probably going to catch 3.5. I could see LSU having the lead at halftime, and then maybe Michigan State's back class kicks in. But that's one of them I'm looking at is kind of going inside the game there. And I'll give LSU the puncher's shot out of the gate. I don't know how they hang on at the end of the game, but that's one for sure I'm looking at. And I think Auburn, North Carolina, I'm on board with the line move from 160 to 163. I think that game has track meet written all over it.
Certainly looks that way. And if Auburn makes shots, then that upset potential gets really interesting because they shoot a very high volume of threes. So if they're making them, we could see the Tar Heels get knocked off there. Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. How can people check out those two shows, Brian?
Well, we can check you out tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, looking forward to that. Adam in Vegas going to be joining us in studio. KSHP.com. Follow me on Twitter at Brian Blessing. And, you get the sportsbook directors here in Vegas on the show, handicappers. Adam's going to be on the show tomorrow. And Vegas Hockey Hotline, noon to 2 Pacific time. And we have a lot of good stuff. It's fun, and we're looking forward to having you in studio and, see what the plan is tomorrow, bud. Get you in there. You want to stick around and do a little hockey talk, too, on Vegas Hockey Hotline. Looking forward to that. And we got videos up at BangTheBook.com. We've got a Thursday video, a Friday video, and we did a Stanley Cup update video. And we'll be getting up at some point today. We'll break down the match play event, pretty much what we just talked about, but try to find some of those wagering opportunities and betting strategies for people. Those videos at BangTheBook.com.
Brian Blessing, once again, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline, at Brian Blessing on Twitter. Appreciate the time as always, Brian. Thank you so much, man, and looking forward to tomorrow.
All right, bud. You have a great day. Thank you, Adam.